In this video we are going to be looking over this Canon AE-1 35mm film SLR camera equipped with the fast f1.4 50mm FD lens. Very nice example of this lens, and what I thought I'd do is put it through some paces here so that we can see together how this works. And one thing I wanted to point out is we're going to put in a battery, and it's a battery just for my testing purposes. But before we do that, let's look at this battery door. This one is in very nice condition. It latches properly and opens properly, and these are often broken, and this one is not. It's a very nice one. So let's put the battery in, being careful to put the positive to the top. The door latches properly. And then I thought we'd just step down here, starting at 1/1000th of a second, and 1/500th, 1/250th, 1/125th. One thing I'm noticing here is there's none of that characteristic squeal with this shutter. Here's 1/60th, 1/30th, 1/15th. And we can see here, I'm going to even stop the lens down more as we look here, 1/15th here. We see it stop way down to f22. 1/8 of a second. Blades are very quick and snappy. 1/4 of a second, we'll set it to a different f-stop. 1/2 second. 1 whole second. 2 whole seconds, and the bulb setting, during which the lens stays stopped down and the shutter stays open as long as I hold the button down. So that's all working well. One thing we could try here is check the metering here. I'm going to set it at 1/1000th of a second and set the lens on the A locking setting here. And now I've got the ASA, or as we say today, ISO, set at 25. So now if I point this right into this light here, we'll see what it stops down to. Actually, it didn't stop down at all. There it did when I pointed it more into the light. Now, if I hold that same position and I change this to a much higher f-stop and point it about the same way, it stops down much more. So there's what we're showing that the metering is working. I set it at a much higher ASA value, and it stops down farther. Let's lower that down again. I'm not seeing exactly what I'm lowering it to, but let's put it there. Make sure it's at the same setting and a much bigger aperture. So that's showing me that the metering is responding. And let's at this point dismount the lens. This is the newer FD with the button here, where you push and rotate the lens. Looks like a very nice example of this lens. Very smooth focusing. I did look through this with it on the camera at the bulb setting so that it was wide open and I could see through, and I pointed a LED flashlight in through the back and looked through. I did not see any fungus. There's a little bit of internal dust, which almost all of these have, but yeah, pretty nice example of lens. If we mount it back on, we line up the mark, rotate the whole body, and the button did click out. We can see there, so it's locked in place. Sometimes those buttons don't pop out, but it does on this lens properly. Next thing we should do is check the self-timer. If we pull this lever forward here and then activate the shutter button, we can see the little red light blinking right there, and we can watch as it completes the cycle. And there it did. So that's a nice, all the electronics seem to be working well on this one. If we look around the back, it's got a nice pliable rubber eye cup. These are often very stiff if they're even there at all. It does have a little protective hot shoe cover for the flash. And another feature here too, while we've got it here, is if you have this flip that way, it locks the shutter button so you can't accidentally set it off while it's in your camera bag or sometime when you don't want to run it. So to open the back now, we pull up on the film advance knob, and if we look back here, we can see the shutter curtains look really nice. Film transport is working well, and as I look at the light seals, looks a little bit old right there. But that's a place where I think that'll be just fine to use it as it is. This one does not have much sticky residue on the door edges. That's actually really good. So I would say this camera is ready to go right as it sits. Door closes properly, has a nice metal crank for rewind, and it's got a Canon cap for the lens. The filter threads are good on this lens, they are not dented. And it comes with this Canon branded strap. So this is a very nice example of the Canon AE-1. Even on the bottom there's a little bit of scuffing, but the little cover for the auto winder area is there. It's sometimes missing. And not a lot of hunting and pecking around the tripod socket. Just a little general abrasion. So, and the little sync socket for the for using a corded flash has the little cover still in place. And I didn't demonstrate the aperture. There we go. The stop down. So that works properly. It's a locking kind that you can then undo if you want to. So, quite a nice example of the Canon AE-1 35mm SLR camera equipped with the better f1.4 50mm lens. These are usually found with the 1.8, but this one has a 1.4.